George Bruno with the 21 Report, the European edition. We're in Warsaw, Poland, talking to Mr. Noah Revoy. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So you just got off stage, you spoke to the men. What did you talk about?
Agency. I was talking about agency. For those who don't know what agency is, it's two parts. It's the knowledge that you can control yourself in your life, and then of course the skills to actually be able to do that.
Ivan had talked about something like that where I guess the word he used was regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a surprising amount of overlap between what I was telling people and what other speakers had done. So I noticed a piece from almost every presentation referred back to developing agency.
Yeah.
And I think in the end we're coming around to seeing that it's not truly masculinity that is feared. It is men with agency, because men with agency are free men.
Yes.
We're not subjected easily to political trickery or religious trickery or divisions between us or ideology, because we can think clearly and we can control our emotions and all of those things that people use to manipulate us. And because of that, we're dangerous. And because we're dangerous, we're feared. And I think everyone in the manosphere, that certainly the one speakers here today and during this week so far, have been all alluding in that direction. I think that's the direction we're evolving in to understand.
Excellent. How does agency flesh itself out in the life of a single man? A typical single man who might be attending a conference like this.
So if you're a single man, you have two choices. You can say, I am 100% responsible for how I react to the world around me, and I'm going to take control of my life, and I'm going to do whatever my goal is. And that goal of success will be different for different men. Or you can say, I can't get a date because of women. I can't get a job because of the job market. I can't make friends because everyone else is the problem. And those are basically the two paths that all of us have. For young single men, it's even more important that they choose the path of agency, because once you're married and you have kids and you have a job and you have a life behind you, you can kind of coast on the agency you had as a younger person choosing that path. Well, when you're young and you haven't got a path yet, it's agency or death.
Yeah.
Maybe not physical, but definitely genetic if you don't make the right choice.
What if someone never had agency, they were never in control of their life, they were just just a bag of emotions? How do you start to train somebody to have agency?
We have to find the smallest level at which they're able to currently exercise control. So, for example, in order for someone to contact me, they had to have at least enough self-control, enough discipline to pick up the phone, to pay me. They had to somehow get money. They had to do some things in order to start that process. And so I'll work with them on that, and we'll take those small displays of agency and we'll build it up. It's the same that you do with a child. You don't expect a 5-year-old to have the agency of a 15-year-old or a 25-year-old,
right.
But they should have some level of control. Maybe all they can do is sit still for 2 or 3 minutes while you talk to them. But you'll practice that with them. And as a father, you teach your children that agency by taking the things that they can do in small amounts and extrapolating it over time into bigger and bigger challenges.
You have to crawl before you walk.
Exactly. And for crawling, crawling's actually more exercise than walking. It's harder. And so very often it's difficult for people to exercise agency on these small levels. Can be something as simple as this. In the morning when you wake up, why do you decide to get out of bed and have your coffee and start your work and not just stay in bed all day long if you wanted? You won't die. You can get up tomorrow morning if you want. But if you make that choice, you're going to suffer a cost. There's a cost to get up. There's a cost to not getting up. The cost to not getting up is you could lose clients. You could lose your work. You could lose reputation. You could lose honor. The cost of getting up is that you don't get the comfort of being in bed as long as you wanted to. And the man of agency, he's going to look at his choices and he's going to be able to weigh them accurately without a lot of emotional, I feel comfortable, I feel something, so I'm going to pick that. He's going to be able to look at that long-term benefit. If I make this choice a couple of times, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, and then I'm going to be homeless, and then I'm going to be really uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's what makes human civilization possible, is when a sufficient number of men are willing to display that agency. And the more men that display it, the farther advanced society is. Are you familiar with the Pareto principle?
Yes.
So the Pareto principle says that about 20% of people produce 80% of the value in the world. And of that group, 20% of them produce 80% of the value. So it works out that 4% of the population produces about 64% of the value in the world.
Yes.
My goal is to make that 5 or 6 or 10%. And then by doing that, double or triple or quadruple the value that the world has, by helping men who have, and all men have some capacity to display agency, helping them to reach the maximum that they can reach.
Okay, let's dig a little bit deep with agency. Let's do a SWOT analysis. Let's do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Start with strengths of agency.
Well, the real strength for agency is that you're going to be able to outcompete people who don't have agency. And a lot of times, competition's gotten kind of a negative reputation. It seems like we have to hurt other people to compete.
Yes.
But if you see, for example, a football game, what you have is a bunch of people who are cooperating, even though they're competing, and they're working together in a kind of cooperation type thing. It's a mix of cooperation. They have to agree on rules. And actually, both teams win. They may not win the game, but everyone goes home, they get paid. Everyone has a happy life through playing that game. All the fans win. Your team may not have won, but you had the enjoyment of that experience. Mm-hmm. And so competition is, in a healthy environment, it is mutually beneficial. The strength is that you will be able to create the win-win situations much more often when you have agency. Mm-hmm. Many people, they're not only not winning, they're making sure no one else wins. We see a lot of this in society.
Yes.
And the end to that is for people to have sufficient agency that they can see the opportunity.
Yes.
And how to get there. And that's the strength really of it.
Is there a weakness with agency?
The weakness with agency, and I've had this with a few people I have a course for agency. Some of the people that go through the course, they have to dig so deep into themselves to understand how they were programmed through childhood that it brings up difficult emotional questions that they have. Taking 100% responsibility for themselves means they can't have the emotional comfort of lies. They have to face the truth head on. We talk a lot about the red pill. The red pill can be very intellectual if you don't have agency to go out and do something with it.
Execution.
Yes, exactly. And you can talk all about the red pill and this and women hypergamy, but if you don't know how to execute that in your life,
yes, and
do something with it to make yourself and others happy, then it's not very useful for you. So you're taking the knowledge and executing on it. But that could be scary.
The opportunities.
The opportunities, if we didn't have agency, we'd basically be animals. We would be living in the wild at the mercy of nature. Because we have agency, we were able to create civilization and music and culture and art. And you and I are here after flying around the world. We're here talking. It's getting recorded. It's going to go out to millions of people. This all happens mostly because men of agency said, this could happen. I think I just need to invent whatever solution will make it happen. Yeah. And then he went out and did it.
Yeah.
And enough men do that. It's not that you or I will save the world. It's that we will save the world together.
Excellent. And I will kind of put some words in your mouth with threats. I wrote down the word sabotage in the manosphere and the men's community. Is that a threat?
Absolutely. Because you see, agency is amoral. You can be an evil dictator. You can be a fake prophet. You can be a con artist and have very high agency. In fact, you can use your high agency as a weapon to take in men of low agency and bring them into your little cult and make them your followers.
Yes.
And they'll do whatever you want, and they won't question you what you're saying. And that can happen in any organization. And we have to look out for that. The only cure for that is for enough men to have agency, and those that do have agency to stand up to those who are abusing their agency. And yes. The key to the counter to immorally used agency is to use agency morally against it.
What is the opposite of agency?
Passivity.
Passivity.
So if we are passive and we live in a world that's designed to erode our agency by selling us passivity. You don't need to think about what you're going to eat. You just need a little money and you go down to the local fast food place and you can get something. You don't need to worry about your health. If you got problems with your heart, we'll give you a pill. You got a problem with your head, we'll give you a pill. You can't get erect, we'll give you another pill. And it's just pill, 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 pill. You don't need to make friends. You just get a social media account and you start liking people's posts and they'll add you as friends. And you don't need real friends. Mm-hmm. So it's this passive ways of living life instead of being active and getting out in the real world and doing things. Mm-hmm. We can do everything passively from the comfort of our chair. And that erodes our agency and it makes us weak. And it makes us unable to deal with actual high agency people, good or bad. We just can't deal with them. We don't know how to interact with these people. And we're going to take control of our life or someone else will. But somebody's going to have control over us. And it's a lot better if it's us.
Agency gives a person traction, not just motion, wheels turning, but the vehicle going nowhere. Until there are studs in those snow tires that can grip the snow, then the car can move. There's a man out there, he's passive, he feels helpless. It might be learned helplessness. Speak to that guy about agency, why it's important for him to get it, the first step he needs to take to get it, and the possible rewards of having agency. Talk to him.
Excellent. If you are a man who feels anxious, who feels worried, who is scared about his life and his future, or about what is happening in the world, agency is going to help you dramatically. It's going to help you because you will get control over yourself and how you react to the unpredictabilities of the world. You can start to develop agency. One of the best ways is to make sure that you associate with people who have agency. There are men out in the world that have agency. There are people out there who are making things happen. You know, that we see this at 21 Convention. This is a convention of men of agency, especially the ones who are organizing and speaking here. Come to 21 Convention. Find other avenues where you can be around good men who have agency, who make things happen in the world, and start imitating them. Ask them, how is it that you control yourself? How is it that you execute your will into the world? And learn from these men. And you have to give them value in exchange for that. They're helping you, you have to help them. The other thing you can do is specifically acknowledge that you have a certain level of control over your life. That might be small right now. That might be really small. But you can take that little level of control and you can leverage it to get more and more and more control, like a snowball. And eventually you can have the power to make the life that you want. Make a life where anxiety doesn't bother you, where you're not worried about your future, where you feel confident, where your needs are being met in wholesome ways rather than artificially through television and through junk food and through medicine. You're going to have the life that you want. And if you don't know what that life is right now, then that's an even lower level of agency. You'll find out once you start to develop agency. You'll start to be able to listen to your heart and learn what you actually want out of life. This is the only way to have true happiness. Whatever that means for you, you'll need agency to find it.
Mental assent, commitment, and follow through on your way to agency. A conversation with Noah Revoy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.